Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about the 7.62 by 25 Tokarev pistol cartridge. Um, there are a lot of guns out on the surplus market, a lot of handguns that are chambered in this round. Uh, Years ago it wasn't really that popular in the US until they changed the importation laws in the late 80s, and then it started with the Chinese. And then when communism fell in the 90s, 1990s, we were flooded with all these ex-communist bloc surplus guns. And this was as far as the Russians and the Soviet satellite countries, for a period of time, this was the pistol round and submachine gun round used by many different countries, and I believe it still is in some parts of the world to this day. Let's talk about the cartridge itself. It's a little bit tricky in the background. Back in the 1890s, there were a couple different people manufacturing pistols, some famous. One is the Mauser broom handle, and then there was another fella named Bochart that made a pistol. Interesting looking contraption, toggle link device. So you had the 7.62 by 25 millimeter Bochart, which was, I think, the first one, because his pistol was a model 1893. And then Mauser developed their own semi-automatic pistol, the Mauser 96, which was also in the 7.62 by 25. Now, there's also another caliber, and as time went on, the Bochart caliber, I think, that's a little bit different in terms of the case and everything. The Mauser cartridge was in that pistol and very popular. And with the Imperial Russians, they bought a lot of Mauser's pistols, and it was a favorite caliber with the Tsar's army and a lot of the Russian military. Then when George Luger came around, he kind of took Bochart's pistol and ideas and morphed it into his own world-famous Luger pistol, which the first one was a 7.62 by 21 millimeter Parabellum. Okay, and they started making that in 1908. So you have these three cartridges that are quite similar, all right? Then in the 30s, when they had the revolution and the communists took over, the communists decided that they wanted to modernize their army. They wanted a new handgun, and they were looking around. So what they developed is something like this. It's the Chinese version, but the TT-33 pistol, kind of a Browning design. So now we don't have an 1890s handgun. We have a more modern gun with more modern steel. So what the Russians did is they went with the 7.62 by 25 millimeter Mauser cartridge, because they had so many guns, it was a popular caliber, and they said, why don't we just make it more powerful? And that is where they come up with 7.62 by 25 millimeter, and we'll just call it Tokarev, because of the Tokarev pistols. This cartridge is similar, not exactly the same as the Mauser, it's similar. And actually you can fire either or, they'll fit in the guns. In other words, this Tokarev round will fit in a Mauser, but you don't want to fire it. What they did is they increased the power. And then now they had a powerful round, they had a pistol, and it became the submachine gun caliber also. So they made a whole assortment of submachine guns caliber for this round. And then after World War II, the Soviet Union controlled, a good chunk of the world, and what we'll call the communist bloc, or under the Soviet satellite countries of Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and that. And then China generally just produced copies of anything the Russians had, I guess, out of communist friendship or whatever. So there are a lot of countries that use that more powerful cartridge. Now the thing that's tricky about this, okay, is these cartridges will fit in a Mauser 96 broom handle pistol, but it will blow the gun up in an older gun. You can use the weaker powered ammo in a crisis in a pistol like this. And in World War II, the Germans and everybody used the old stock of ammo in these guns. Okay, so that's the one thing. But be warned, do not stick this in an older gun. Okay, so now we go to the 80s. Markets get flooded with all these surplus guns. These guns here, you know, they were kind of hard to find. You may have found some from bringbacks from Vietnam or Korea or something, but they were very far and few between. So there wasn't a huge demand for the ammo or reloading it, okay? I don't believe there was. But after they changed the import laws, the fall of communism, all these ex-communist nations had these stockpiles of old weapons and ammo. This stuff flooded the market and was dirt cheap. And this is an unusual cartridge in that it wasn't quite popular in the U.S., but now I think the steel-cased, I could, both of these, one of these, it could be Hungarian or Romanian. This is 72 rounds in that box, and I don't know, 70 rounds or something in this box of Polish ammo. This stuff was brass case, so they charge you a few bucks more, like $10 for a 70 round box. And I had some of the lacquered steel case stuff out of Romania or Bulgaria, and that used to go for like $8, $8.50 a box for 70, 72 rounds, whatever was in the box. And so the stuff was all lower. And I'm talking, it's about 2005, 2006. You know, there were warehouses, AIM surplus, had cases and cases of stuff. There was so much of it and it was so cheap that they even started making guns in this caliber. What was popular, they were bringing the parts kits in, and you would make a standard Sterling carbine, which is basically you took the submachine gun parts, formed a gun with a 16-inch barrel. And there were some in 7.62x25 because the ammo was so cheap. Okay. And I forget if you can get conversion kits or something. I don't even know. I know some companies over the years did make, like Star made pistols in this caliber. In the 70s, Mauser went and had a run where they reproduced the Luger. And they would be in the 30 Luger, see. So there are some guns, you know, that were made. They're not that common, but were made, and that would be in the 7.62x21mm caliber, which you don't want to mix up. Okay, but it's something, unless you're really into collecting Lugers, and they are kind of hard to find. They do pop up in auctions every now and again, but it's hard to find them. You know, not that common. Then again, you don't want to mix the ammo up. Okay. But yeah, it was plentiful, and there was even some pistols and carbines made in it recently. So all the ammo's there, it's sitting there, and I remember calling one place and they said, oh, we got a whole warehouse full of it. That stuff, there's a lot of it and it's cheap. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like out of the blue, this stuff just dried up. Okay, and we did have these weird little panic crisis buyings all through the years there, you know, 2008, 9, all that. But somewhere along the line, all of a sudden, this stuff is like gone. It was everywhere. It was cheap. You know, anybody buying one of these pistols or something, you know, he'd go out and shoot all day long. You know. So what happened to it? Now, I heard several stories. One, somebody at a gun show told me that there was a guy somewhere up in Alaska that bought the whole world's supply of this ammo to corner the market. And I said, how the hell does that work? And then you never heard nothing again. You know, it was a bullshit story. But what I think really happened is, because this was a surplus ammo, it was cheap. I mean, they were just getting rid of these stockpiles. These governments weren't going to use it. The weapons, be it handguns. And now another thing, a lot of these countries made a whole bunch of submachine guns. Okay, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland had several of them. All of these guns are now considered obsolete. They probably were sold along with the ammunition. And again, if you had a choice of this pistol and some old ammo, okay, or no pistol and no ammo, this is a damn good choice, okay? So what happened is, and what people don't kind of understand, is there were a lot of foreign agreements. They wanted to stop the sale of this old obsolete stuff because politically these arms were getting in the hands of people who were making them less powerful, and their globalization goals were not being achieved fast enough. Okay? So one of the things was they're going to make everyone stop selling this stuff on an open market and destroy it. And I believe that's why you really can't find supplies of this anymore. Plus, a lot of this stuff was coming out of countries now, like, you know, we're not going to import anything from Russia. The Polish stuff was old. It was like in the 50s and that. So when they sold their pistols and the ammo that went with it, over the years they were finding these old inventories of it and selling it off. And I think they've sold just about all the stuff they had. That's another thing. They're not making it anymore. And once the stocks are gone, then you're not going to find it. And I think these international bans where the organizations would go and buy the ammunition and ordnance and destroy it. Okay? And plus there are treaties. That's why we don't have P1 pistols anymore. They told Germany, you know, sign some kind of treaty. They can't sell them P1 handguns as surplus. They got to destroy them by the treaty or law or whatever. Okay? So that's why this stuff kind of dried up, which is a shame, because now I have one military round, and like I said, there were all kinds of different cartridges and variations, standard ball round, and these things average out to about, I'm not quite sure what the bullet weight is, it's under 100 grains, but they average out the standard ball about 1,400 feet per second. You can find it as low as 1,200 feet per second, and some variations, be it a tracer, armor piercing, or some kind of special ammo. Some of it is clocked at 1,600 feet per second. Okay, so it's a pretty interesting little cartridge. This is a civilian Winchester cartridge. This is actually a commercial round right next to it. And both of these boxes of surplus, like I said, I think one's Romanian, one's Polish, have a brass case on it and a bullet like that. This is a Winchester Western. I'm not quite sure. I had a couple rounds that came with the gun. I never bought civilian ammo. Okay, I got the dies in that, and I was planning on reloading it. You can get the brass from Starline Brass. Okay, and buying like 1,000 of them in a case is probably the most least expensive and best way to go if purchasing reloadable brass. You know, I know some people, you can get them in bags of 50 or 100, but if you're looking to load a lot of ammo or you have several of these guns, Starline is best grabbing it in one case. And there is a difference. Starline does make 7.62 for the Mauser, and they do make 7.62 Luger brass. And there's a little bit of a difference in them. So they have all three. And the thing about the Tokarev brass is actually it's made to where the base and rim are different, thicker, more heavy duty to accept handling a higher pressure load where the other ones are not. Okay? So right now SG Ammo has some of this. It's Yugoslavian, I believe, and you got three choices. Stuff made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it's anywhere from 50 some cents for the stuff in the 60s, which questionable, hard primers may or may not go off, all of it's like that. So they price it now 50 some odd cents for the old stuff, 60s, 60 some odd cents, 68 cents or something like that for the stuff made in the 70s, and if you want the stuff made in the 80s, it's 75 cents a round. Now at that price, you're better off buying PPU or some commercial brass, which it all comes out to about $30 for a box of 50 rounds. Why? Because this old Barrett and primed or steel cased ammo, you can't reload it. If you're going to drop a lot of money, you might as well buy the commercial ammo that is reloadable. Then you have reloadable brass that you can either trade, have someone reload for you, or start reloading it, and that's where you will save money. So that's the odd thing about it. You know, we went from where this stuff was cheap, plentiful, and was all over the place, much like our Mosin Nagant ammo. You know, there was tons of it at one time, everywhere. And the Mosin Nagant ammo is still used in the machine guns and that. And a lot of them cases of ammo, that's what you're getting. That ammunition is basically designed for your general purpose machine guns, which are still used. But because of importation laws and everything else, you don't see it as much anymore. This stuff here, either it's been sold out, you know, a lot of the stuff you're seeing coming in is way old, 50, 60 years old. I don't know if they've sold it out. I don't know if they've forced them to destroy their stockpiles so there's none available. But the days of getting this really cheap and in large quantities, I think, are long gone. But it's an interesting cartridge anyway. Alright, stay tuned guys, and hope you enjoyed the video.